Welcome to today's episode of Family Fandom Talk, FFT, the show where we invite families, parents, and kids to talk about the latest fan stuff. My name is Emily, and this is my dad, Michael.
Hello, I am Emily's dad, as she said, Michael. And this is Family Fandom Talk, our third episode. We're trying a new software, so we'll see how it goes this time. Hopefully we'll go a little bit smoother. And as always, we're going to talk about the rules a little bit for the show. And no cursing. Obviously, it's a family-friendly show, and some of the stuff we talk about, we may, in the news, we may mention stuff that's R-rated or stuff that kids wouldn't see, but we won't talk about it in reviews. We won't talk about things that kids wouldn't be able to see. And then part of the idea for the conversation is that both the parents and the kids ideally should be fans of the stuff we're talking about, and the kids should be old enough to talk about what we're talking about. So so like a younger sibling or someone who's like 4 or 5 or who can't like sit still or talk about something for 45 minutes or so probably isn't going to be the right age. But beyond that, anything goes. Any combination of parents, kids, moms, dads, step parents, grandparents. Whatever we want to do. We want to make this conversation as open to everybody as possible. And here's the big one: all opinions are valid. We won't be talking anyone else down. We won't be telling anyone else they're wrong. If there's a statement of fact, or you're saying something as a fact, and someone else knows that the fact is incorrect, you can correct them on the fact. But if you're expressing an opinion, it's good. There are no wrong opinions. And so what are we talking about? What's a fandom? So fandom is kind of the geek stuff. It's the fun stuff. It's anything that people are passionate about. Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, comics, movies, musicals, Disney stuff, anything that people are really, really passionate about. And that we'll have to see as we go along. And then spoilers. We will be talking about stuff that has just come out. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to pause this, go watch it, and then come back if you want to wait and listen to us or watch us until after you've seen it. But we are going to discuss things that have already, if it's aired, if it's already come out, if it's already hit the movie theater, then it's fair game. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to add our first additional people. So far, it's just been me and Emily. And we're now going to add Emily's friend, Allie, and her mom, Amy. Welcome, Allie and Amy, to Family Fandom Talk.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. And so Allie and Emily are friends from school. And I know that her mom, Amy, and I have talked on the playground about some of the geek stuff and everything. So I thought, okay, they'd be great as our first additional people to join in.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. First thing I was going to ask all you guys is, today is Easter Sunday. What did you guys do for Easter?
Well, we ate a big breakfast with sausage and bacon and scrambled eggs and also waffles. And then we just kind of chilled, and my dad is making dinner right now.
Cool. How about you, Emily?
For Easter, I got up at some point in the morning, and I'm like, I'm tired. But it's Easter! So I sprang out of bed and I went to my door, my French doors, to see what I had gotten in my basket from the Easter Bunny. And I had gotten some Play-Doh eggs, a carrot of jelly beans, and
so you got gifts for Easter, Play-Doh and jelly beans?
Mm-hmm. And I have one more thing I got in my basket. And not too long of a story left, because I don't want to take up the whole show.
That's okay.
And my last thing that I got in my basket was a Lego Stegosaurus that I could build.
Excellent. I know you're all about the Lego. You're all about the Lego, and you're just now getting into Minecraft. I had to actually pull you away from Minecraft for this.
And then once my brother got up, we were opening all our stuff from our Easter baskets because we got the same stuff in our Easter baskets. Oh, I forgot one thing that was in my Easter basket. Double-headed nerds, like with mine had grape on one side and strawberry on the other. My brother got the same thing. And then after we were done with that, we went outside to find that all the eggs were outside. And we got a bunch of extraordinary eggs. And they were so cool. Like, there were eggs that had two different colors. They looked like the Easter Bunny spray painted the eggs.
Nice. That's very cool.
There were these two that had glitter all over them, and they were humongous.
Just to specify, you went over to your mom's house for Easter Sunday morning so you could have your Easter there, and then came back here, now that we can do this, back to our house. And I saw a good joke the other day about Easter for parents that if you, for Easter Sunday, place 20 eggs, tell your kids you placed 22, nap time for you.
Nice.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started and head into our news segment.
Fandom news.
Okay. The first thing we have to talk about the geek news this week is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming to Disney+. We know Ewan McGregor was going to be back to play Obi-Wan Kenobi. The story of this show takes place, it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So it's after Revenge of the Sith. It's way before the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope. So it's like, I guess it's probably about midway, because I guess Luke is probably 20 or 1920 in the first Star Wars movie. So it's probably about midway. So it's Obi-Wan Kenobi halfway between the first trilogy and the second trilogy. The big news is that Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin in the 3 prequel movies, who then became Darth Vader, is going to be back playing Darth Vader. It's not him playing Anakin Skywalker, it's him playing Darth Vader. So it's going to actually, we guess, him in the armor. So that's going to be interesting, him coming back to the role. And then 2 of the other people who are returning are Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Pease, who played Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. So they played them in the original trilogy, and so now it's midway through, so that they get to play them, older as the couple raising Luke, and that must play into there at some point into it. And then after that, they've got a huge cast of people that they announced. Some really good actors on there. Indira Varma, who was on Game of Thrones. She's actually been in a lot of high-profile shows. Kumail Nanjiani, who is a comedian. He had a really big hit film that he directed on his own called The Big Sick. And then he also is upcoming in the Marvel movie, The Eternals. And it seems like Disney's now got him, and Disney is keeping him. So he's in the Eternals. As long as the Eternals is successful, there's probably going to be more Eternals movies. And now they've got him in a Star Wars series. So, Kumail Nanjiani is under contract with Disney. What do you guys think? I know, Emily, we've watched most of the Star Wars movies now. I think we've gone through them kind of not in order. We've kind of hit them different times, especially once Disney Plus came out. We watched through a bunch of the Star Wars.
We watched all of the movies.
Okay.
Even the 2 that weren't that weren't really in the Skywalker saga.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it's called.
Right, because we watched Rogue One and Han Solo.
Mm-hmm. I've watched all 11 now.
Okay.
Somebody's echoing.
Yeah. So what do you think about, this new show? I mean, we've been watching the Mandalorian shows together, and I know you've really enjoyed those. There won't be a Baby Yoda in this one, but what do you think you'll think about it?
I don't know. We haven't gotten... I don't know what to say about it.
Okay. What do you guys think? How deep are you guys into Star Wars?
We are avid Star Wars people. We love Star Wars. We pretty much watch whatever comes out for Star with, in that as much as we can, as quick as we can. we did have a good conversation about because Allie was young enough. She wasn't around when everyone was kind of not a big fan of Hayden Christensen as Anakin. So it was kind of an eyebrow raiser to have him come back in that role. It'll be interesting to see how he takes that on. I mean,
yeah, we don't know. I mean, if he's in the armor, if he's in the armor, then we don't see him.
Right.
And if it's Darth Vader, I mean, they haven't made an announcement on this one way or the other, but shouldn't it be James Earl Jones doing the voice? So what exactly is Hayden Christensen doing at that point?
Well, and I was going to say, I saw when they were talking about Lando, how they might go back and forth between, Billy Dee and Donald Glover, which would be kind of fun if they could do something like that and play with it. But again, he's how many years older now, so he can't really play the young-faced Anakin as much. I mean, he still looks young, but not as young as he once was.
And Allie, what do you think? What did you think about The Mandalorian?
I really liked it because it has lots of violence in it, and also I really like Baby Yoda because he's so cute, and I kind of want to just hug Baby Yoda all day.
So what I got from you is you love cuteness and violence.
Yes.
Nice combo. I like it. There's Emily's Baby Yoda that I got her.
I think I did this last week.
You did do this last time when we talked about Baby Yoda. Yep. Well, cool. We'll go ahead and move on. So more Star Wars news. They did come out with a trailer for The Bad Batch, which is starting, I believe, next month. I mean, I think actually, did I put it? Yeah. It's going to be this year's new thing that comes on Star Wars Day, which is always May the 4th day is May the 4th be with you. So on May the 4th is when Disney Plus is going to debut The Bad Batch, which is basically a kind of continuation of the story from the Clone Wars series. So it's the clones who kind of had their own personality, and I guess Emily and I have only watched pieces of Clone Wars and pieces of Rebels. So we kind of keep as new things come up that give us reason to want to watch different parts of those shows, we'll go and watch just those pieces of the show. We've never sat and just watched those shows all together. So I mean, we've watched the last sequence of episodes from the last season of Clone Wars, so we've seen those Bad Batch characters, and I think we saw the Rebels episodes where they factored in too. So we're semi-familiar with them. I mean, obviously, all of the clones are clones of the same, Boba Fett's father, but these were all differentiated by specific personalities. So it'll be interesting. I mean, like I said, not having seen all of the Clone Wars, I mean, we're definitely looking forward to see where this show goes and kind of where it fits in Peace, because this is also between, the first trilogy and the second trilogy. Anyone?
I like that they're introducing the child character, another child to have kids attached to it, which is great. Because I think sometimes some of it might feel a little it's a story that's already been told, I don't know it, and this gives them a whole new character to kind of grab onto and say, this is my character that's my favorite, which is nice.
Yeah, especially. Go ahead.
It's representing the younger generation instead of just having the same old people, the same old grown-ups. It's flipping the switch, basically.
Yeah, it gives you a reason to come in, which is good. Gives you all an entry point. I mean, especially since we keep telling stories all within the same range of time, so we know how it all ends. So it's just kind of there's got to be an interesting reason to be looking at the pieces in between. Cool. Let's see. Moving on. Show that we watch because we watched Big Bang Theory together. What was that?
I picked the picture.
Oh. Yes. So the show Young Sheldon.
With some of the slides.
Yes, you were very helpful in picking out the slides. So the show Young Sheldon has actually been renewed for 3 more seasons. That'll take it through seasons. They're in season 4 right now. That'll take it through 5, 6, and 7. And I think he's supposed to be about a year older than you guys now. So that'll take him through 14 or 15, which I think is about the time that I think he might have left Texas to go to University in California. So it might be taking him right up into the point where he leaves Texas. We'll have to see how they go. Obviously, they've along the way with that show, they've kind of revised what they do in terms of syncing it with Big Bang Theory. I mean, there's been some discrepancies, but who cares? If it's funny and it's fun, really do we care if they slightly change, details of Sheldon's life from things that they established in Big Bang Theory to Young Sheldon. So do you guys watch that?
So I watched Big Bang quite a bit, but we kind of missed jumping onto the Young Sheldon thing when it started. But we were talking about it the other day that Nickelodeon has picked it up at Nick at Night.
Oh, cool!
So it's nice to have jump on there and kind of start, even if we can't stream it, see it on there as well, which is nice.
Nice. For us, I mean, for Emily, it was definitely a similar thing that we were just talking about is because it was a kid, I mean, and telling a kid's story, and she was about a similar age to him when they started the show, so it was a very nice entry point for her she watched a lot of Big Bang Theory just because it was on, because she was in the room and I was watching it, but I think she's way more into Young Sheldon than you were ever into Big Bang Theory. I don't know. What's your take on that, Emily?
If someone asked me to pick between the two, I don't know which one I pick.
Oh, really? What do you like about Young Sheldon?
I like that the kids aren't going through more older stuff, that when we think about older stuff during Young Sheldon, we think about Sheldon's parents and his brother Georgie, and not Sheldon or Missy.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that.
No, that's
I
good.
forgot half of what I said.
Okay. We'll move on. Let's see. Next up is that the movie that just came out, Godzilla vs. Kong, just premiered this week in movie theaters and on HBO Max. The director of that, Adam Wingard, the movie came out and is successful. And what usually happens in Hollywood when a movie comes out and it's successful, if the director is not like a hugely established director, like a big name director and has their movies mapped out for years in advance, when it's a younger or newer director who's maybe done a couple movies and this was their first big Hollywood feature and it comes out and it's a big success, what almost always happens is the studios then go to that person and start asking them, what do you want to do next? What are you interested in? They might have things that they want to pitch them, but usually what they'll ask them is, what do you want to be able to do? And especially if it's something that they own, if it's a property that they've done before or that they have, that director at that point gets the opportunity to say, hey, I've been a fan of this all my life and I've always wanted to do it. Well, with Adam Wingard, when they asked, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I've been a fan all my life of the Thundercats, the animated series from the 1980s. So at the moment he is now signed up to become the director of a Thundercats movie. Initially I was a little worried because I thought it was going to be live action. Turns out in further reading articles about it, what he's saying is he would vision it as a mix of traditional animation like the original show and CGI animation, kind of more like newer movies do. And so it'd be some mix of those kind of genres there. So, I mean, that's interesting, at least. I think everyone in Hollywood, like, when they hear Thundercats now or they think of that property, they immediately start getting scared about the movie Cats that came out last year. Honestly, Emily and I loved the movie Cats that came out last year that has been universally reviled as like one of the worst movies to happen in years, and we loved it. We enjoyed it. So I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
So I mean, I'm an 80s, like 70s, 80s kid. I love Thundercats. Both Tim and I were both like, oh my gosh. And so to find out that a fan is going to do the movie is like, you can kind of breathe, like, okay, hopefully he will do it no wrong. And like you said, it's good that he's like, hey, this is what I want to do, instead of just being like, no, I want to make something that's going to make millions and it's going to be an easy layup for a movie. Thundercats, again, eyebrows have been raised about how it would be done and how would it be cheesy, because it was a cheesy 80s cartoon, but it was fun. It was fun, and so it's great to be able to have, like, I'm excited for both of our kids to be able to see Thundercats and see what the new reimagining, hopefully it'll be somewhat close to the 80s, but.
Yeah, I think it was like a year or so ago that Emily, you and I watched a little bit of Thundercats. You may not even remember, because I think there was a newer one that came out, and we watched a little bit of that, and that wasn't that great. And so we went back and we watched a little bit of the older show, but that already might have been like 2 years ago now, so you might not even remember.
Yeah, I don't think I remember.
Okay. Let's see. So moving on to DC, Ava Duvurnay, a director who again is an up and coming big director. He's done a couple of really big movies, been very successful, and got to kind of start picking her projects. Emily, and I'm not sure about Allie. I mean, I know for Emily, a big one was that her big successful expensive Hollywood movie that came out that was very successful, and then they started telling her you could do what you want, was A Wrinkle in Time, which I know you were a huge fan of, and you started reading the book and everything too. Allie, had you seen A Wrinkle in Time?
Well, I've seen part of it because at my old school they used to do indoor recesses where you go into the auditorium and you watch a movie on the big flat screen. They started it in like the middle of it, so I'm like, what the heck is happening? And then like they had us watch it for like 30 minutes, and then they dragged us out of there and had us go back to homeroom.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. You got to watch part of it. Yeah, Emily loved it. I mean, it was one when Disney Plus came out, it wasn't on there, and she kept waiting for it to come on there, and it finally came on. And I know when it first came out, we watched it a bunch of times. We saw it in the theater. So a project that Ava DuVernay had been attached to, because they, if you look at Wrinkle in Time in terms of the cosmic storylines there, when she was kind of looked at for projects, DC actually put her on the project of the New Gods, which are the creations of Jack Kirby from the 1970s. Primarily, you can see in the background there the image of Darkseid. For anyone who's seen kind of the Zack Snyder DC movies, starting with Man of Steel, but then especially in Batman v Superman, and then very much especially in Justice League, and absolutely in the Justice League Zack Snyder version that just came out, the New Gods are very prominent there. So he had actually used those characters, but they were kind of background. I mean, the main villain was actually a New Gods character, actually Steppenwolf, who's in the image there. She'd been developing this film now for about 2-3 years, and they've just announced that they're no longer going to do it. and honestly, I think that's probably not a bad decision. I could see her doing a very interesting New Gods film. I just don't know that anyone right now is screaming for a New Gods film, and I just don't know that it's the right time for it. Especially, I think from a Warner Brothers standpoint, I could see where like they kind of want to be a little bit more focused on the core DC characters and kind of get past the Zack Snyder era. And I think, they're still trying to figure out, what their future DC movies look like. I mean, they have a bunch of movies figured out between now and 2023. And I think they kind of want to focus on that. And this just didn't fit in that picture. So I don't know. She is actually still working on a DC project. She was already, Emily, she was already contracted to work on a show for the CW that's a DC property, a character called Naomi, who I'm not very familiar with. I've seen pictures. I've kind of read a little bit about it. It's a character that appeared in the comics only in the last year or two, I think. So it's almost a brand new DC character. That's a new character, but they've already started developing a CW show that's made by the same people, produced by the Berlanti people who produce all the other CW DC shows, and she's currently developing that as a project for the CW. So that right now is still on. So I don't know. That's something I could see, a brand new character. I know it's a woman of color, and it's a new DC superhero character. So I can see that having a broader appeal, a more interesting appeal, especially to the kids and stuff. So. I don't know if you guys know enough about those properties or have everything. I know you don't know the comics really that much to know the New Gods. I know, Emily, you've seen the Zack Snyder's movies. You've seen, and especially you know them from the cartoons because we've watched through all of Justice League Animated, and they did the New Gods in there. So you had Mr. Miracle in there, you had Barda in there, the Female Furies. Darkseid definitely was a villain in the Justice League, the DC animated universe, the one that included Batman the animated series, but especially they did Darkseid a lot in Superman the animated series and then in Justice League Unlimited. So you have a lot of familiarity with the characters from that. So I don't know, would you have wanted a live action movie?
I don't think I know that much about the New Gods to not be asking as much questions during the movie. But I think personally, I would want to wait to watch it so I can learn more about it.
Yeah.
About the New Gods.
I'd say let's just go back and rewatch Justice League Animated.
Okay.
Moving on, staying with the CW, because we do watch pretty much all the CW DC shows. You're definitely a big fan of Supergirl, Batwoman. We've really been enjoying Superman and Lois, the newest one. We didn't watch that much Arrow because I think it was already kind of phasing down as you were a little too young to be watching it. It was a little bit more violent. And so, I don't think you really caught that much Arrow. But especially, I think, with The Flash, I know you're a big fan of The Flash. And so, in The Flash, they're introducing a new character, and that will be Impulse, who's a character from the comics. In the comics, Impulse is Bart Allen, who comes from the future and comes back to the present to Barry and Iris, and is their grandchild from the future. Now he is coming back, and instead of the grandchild, he will be the son of Barry and Iris, which sounds very, very familiar because they just did a storyline like that with their daughter.
Mm-hmm. She came from the future.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. She came back to the present from the future, and she was their daughter from the future. But then because it's time travel storylines during the course of the story, spoilers, it got wrapped up and she got erased from history so that she never happened. So now clearly history has changed, but now in the new history, they have a son and he's coming back in time. Oh, and do I have who he's played by? The actor there on the left is Jordan Fisher, who is playing Impulse. So we'll have to see when he comes in what he looks like. Do you guys watch any of the CW shows? Because we're definitely going to be talking about those.
We want to. We just haven't had it. We haven't really started that. A lot of them. We watch a little bit. But Jordan Fisher, we're fans of him.
Obviously, okay. Good, because you can talk about that because I don't know anything about him. So
I was going to say he's a talented guy. He was just in Dear Evan Hansen, which is where that picture's from, on Broadway, and last year, I think, going into that role as everything was shutting down. Unfortunately, poor kid didn't get it go too far with it, but he's really talented. Ali, actually, we were talking about him earlier today because he is known from the fangirls who love iCarly. He was on there.
Okay, so
go ahead. This is Ali.
iCarly is a web show that I love, but they also premiered it's a web show, but it's also a live thing where it's behind the scenes their lives, but it's not called behind the scenes. So basically in the show they are doing the web show from that show. And on the episode I Speed Date, Carly was trying to find a date to the prom, and there were so many guys because she's famous from her web show in the Netflix show. So there were 10,000 guys that were just lining up, and one of them was Jordan Fisher, acting as one of the guys who was lining up to date Carly for the prom.
Yeah, he's also been on the Thundermans. He's done a lot of he gets the roles of the boy that everyone swoons over kind of a lot, and he is a very talented singer as well. Obviously leading the role in Dear Evan Hansen, you kind of have to be. But it was just funny because we were talking about it, and I said, wait, do you remember that episode? And Allie was, Oh yeah, like iCarly. Let me just, she went right down the rabbit hole of what happened all over that episode. She's a big fan of iCarly, so.
That's excellent. I'm really glad you bring that in, because I didn't know him before this casting notice, and I mean we've never watched iCarly. I do kind of know the premise there. I guess if this really takes off, you guys could be the new iCarlys, but.
I hope so.
but that's great that you knew about that stuff. Let's see. Okay, so next up we're going to Teen Titans Go, and this was something. There was a series of episodes called "The Night Begins to Shine." It all was centered around this song that was supposed to be this incredible song that I guess the show had started talking about in previous episodes. They'd had this amazing rock song, and I had to look into it. That it was like this rock song that a band had created that was meant to sound like an '80s rock song, and the creators of Teen Titans Go found the song and started teasing it in episodes as like this favorite thing of Cyborg, and then did a whole like movie, like a 4-part 4-episode movie that was The Night Begins to Shine, that was all about this rock song, and the rock song could take them to this other universe that is this alternate universe that is all about the rock music. And I guess they did a second one in 2020. I had never seen it. I didn't know. Emily knew about it. She, I guess, and her little brother were huge fans of those episodes and of the song and knew all about it. So we actually watched it yesterday. We watched the first one, the Night Begins to Shine, yesterday. We're going to need to find the new one from 2020 and be able to watch that. But the point of all of it is that I guess that alternate universe where the song ruled, and it's this whole kind of fantasy world that basically everything looks like 80s rock covers, essentially, where all the characters turn into creations and visuals from like the 80s cartoons and especially 80s rock and roll covers. They're working on it getting its own spin-off show from Teen Titans Go. And now, having heard it, I'm excited about it. When I did these notes a couple of days ago, if you'd asked me, I was like, okay, I don't know what happened. And we watched Teen Titans, and we've seen some Teen Titans Go, but I don't really know what this is. And now, having watched it yesterday, I'm like, I love the song. I was doing it for like the entire 4 episodes. Yeah, Emily at one point turned to me and started laughing.
Because I saw him going.
I started fist bumping through the song.
I don't know as much because it's gotten annoying to me because my brother's obsessed with it now.
And he's what, 5,
and he
right?
listens to it all the time on the Echo Dots at home.
So you can play
and
the song.
The reason I can't say the real name of it is I have one in my bathroom over there.
You could dangerously start playing the song if you talked about it.
Yeah. That's why I call it Echo Dot, so it doesn't go off.
Yeah, so it doesn't go off. Yep. How about you guys?
Huge fans. Like to the point that it's become almost a joke. Like one of us will start to say the music, and it's like that earworm that it's amazing. It's a great song, and those episodes are great, but it catches in your ear for the next like 3 weeks. You're gonna be singing it.
And I am a huge fan of Teen Titans Go. Like, it is so funny. Like, it's just like really funny and really great. And like when it came out, I watched it like 5 times, and I just thought it was cool that they were able to like animate them into like more serious like rock and roll rebels kind of. And also last year I helped my dad with his fantasy football league, and they had us pick songs to play when we were picking our players, and we picked that, and Night Begins to Shine, because it's on like a bunch of music apps as one of the songs.
A lot of people in the league were doing that draft were not familiar with the song, but by the end of the draft, like everyone was like rocking out to it. It was great.
So it's the theme song of the fantasy football draft.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, I've only heard it now for 24 hours, so it's in my head now, and we'll see how long it lasts.
It'll last, yeah.
Well, cool. I'm going to go past the next one really, really quickly because I think we're having a good conversation. That's going really long in the news, and I do want to get to our reviews as well. The next one I'm going to go by quickly. Just say that Star Trek is going to be doing a First Contact Day. Paramount had already started doing a Star Trek Day to kind of counterbalance the Star Wars Day that Disney's have been doing May the 4th because they had the artificial holiday of May the 4th for Star Wars. So they started doing a Star Trek Day on September 9th, which is the day that the original Star Trek series premiered. Now they're adding a second one, and they're doing First Contact Day because the Star Trek movie First Contact had established that the First Contact Day, the day the Vulcans first came to Earth and Earth first officially met another alien species, the movie established it as happening on April 5th. So tomorrow is going to be First Contact Day, and Paramount Plus is going to be doing a bunch of special events. They're going to be doing a couple panels. They're going to be doing a 25th anniversary panel on the movie First Contact. They're going to be doing what sounds like a really cool panel that's about women in Star Trek, and Women in Motion is the name of it, and it includes Discovery's Sonequa Martin Green, Picard's Michelle Hurd, and Issa Briones, and Lower Decks voice actress Dawnn Lewis, and it's all a Women of Star Trek salute to the original woman of Star Trek, Nichelle Nichols, which is very, very cool. And I will try to catch some of that tomorrow. They're also going to do a panel on the new show Star Trek Prodigy, which is the first new kids animated show for Star Trek. I think that is on Nickelodeon, I believe. I think that's where that's going to be premiering. And the actress Kate Mulgrew, who was the Captain Janeway on Star Trek Voyager, she's going to make an appearance in that show, so she's going to be on the panel. And then I'm going to head straight to our next news, which is following up from last week where we announced they were starting to announce characters for the new adult version of the Powerpuff Girls, just called Powerpuff, that's coming to CW next year. Or at least we don't know. They're doing a pilot. They're creating a pilot of Powerpuff, which is about the Powerpuff Girls grown up in their 20s and dealing with the childhood trauma of having been superheroes. So it's kind of paralleling adult celebrity kids who are dealing with the trauma of having been child actors. They're dealing with the trauma of having been child superheroes, but then they have to go back into action because the world needs them in their 20s. So they're starting to round out the rest of the cast. They've announced that Professor Utonium, their dad, is going to be played by actor Donald Faison. And then instead, they haven't announced anything about Mojo Jojo himself, but they have announced Mojo Jojo's son, Joseph Jojo Mandel Jr., will be played by Nicholas Spadani. I believe also another Broadway actor
Yes.
that you guys are probably more familiar with than I am. But I know you guys are huge fans of Donald Faison, so I know you're excited about that.
Yes. Turk, from Scrubs.
Yeah.
We're all about Scrubs, but yeah, he's great. He's great in everything he's been in, from Clueless on.
I was going to say, for me, it really goes back to Clueless. I mean, I watched Scrubs, but I wasn't a huge Scrubs fan. But yeah, I've seen Clueless and the Clueless series that he followed up in, and other stuff that he's done over the years. So definitely a huge fan of the actor.
Yeah.
It still seems to me, how could he be old enough to play a Professor Utonium 20 years later? But he probably isn't that much younger than me at this point. So
yeah, that's that. Yeah,
probably less than 10 years younger than me.
I watched the original version of Powerpuff Girls, and I'm a big fan of it. And I'm glad that they're doing a movie of it, because I'm really big fans of it, and it's good to see them that they're still together in their 20s, because they after the show ended, it kind of seemed like they kind of stopped fighting crime together and sort of split up.
Yeah, so that may be part of the theory, is the idea that the sisters may not be close when it starts, and it may be about them trying to get back together.
Yeah, and she was excited that the Dove Cameron, obviously Descendants.
Yeah,
she's like, woohoo.
Yeah, so you guys have that in
Honestly,
common. Yeah, Emily is a humongous Descendants fan, like rabid Descendants fan.
We actually dressed up last year, and I got to be Maleficent for Halloween, and
I got to be Uma.
Oh, that's interesting.
What's my name? I can't remember.
Wait, no, 2 years ago.
it was
I was
Well,
gonna
yeah,
say
I guess we can't really count the last Halloween.
Ago.
Sorry, I talked over you, Emily. Go ahead.
I accidentally was going to say that last year I was Mal for Halloween, but I wasn't. The year before that, I was Mal for Halloween.
so we both good stuff.
And
Same year.
Yeah, the last real Halloween.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you played Mal, and then who was I for that Halloween when you were Mal?
You were the Beast.
I didn't hear you.
You were the Beast.
Yeah, I was Ben. I was King Ben, or Ben's King Dad. Yep. So
And,
definitely.
One of my best friends was Audrey.
Nice. So yeah, so lots of Descendant for these age girls. Definitely a big thing. So yeah, what we talked about last time when we talked about this was the fact that it's Dove Cameron from The Descendants, which is her, one of her favorite things, playing her mom's favorite Powerpuff Girl.
That's funny. Meant to be.
Yep. Okay, well that's our news, and now we're going to move into our review section, the talk time.
Talk time.
And we're back. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what?
I got the I'm.
Oh.
I didn't get the talk or the T. I got the I'm when I press for sound.
Yes. So obviously still the biggest thing, and what we'll probably talk about first every week, while it's still going for at least the next 3 weeks, is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We definitely, it's become our appointment kind of television on Friday. I mean, it definitely was so much with WandaVision, and we've carried that into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so that it's kind of the first thing we watch after coming home from school on Friday. And so Emily, what were your thoughts on this week's episode? It was definitely a different episode. It had a lot less kind of fighting and action. It was more kind of a spy episode.
Yeah. I like that they're slowly introducing more characters that might factor in later. Like this episode, they introduced Barry and Sharon Carter. And I thought it was interesting that they sort of hinted that Sharon might not be there on the run, like on her own. It looks like she's working for someone.
She's what?
It looks like she was working for someone or with someone, like maybe some spy agency.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like that she's, there's more to her than what we see. It's like whenever we see her, there's always more to her going on than what we know about. She always harkens back to that, secret agent past of, there's always more. But I did think it was interesting the way they kind of brought her on, that she's been living there in Madripoor, and they kind of made it look like she's so sour grapes, for still being on the run and not having her name cleared like almost everyone else had after Endgame. It seems like almost everyone else had their names cleared from the issues from Civil War, but not her. She's still had to be out there, and so she's made do by kind of becoming this illegal art dealer, selling famous works of art to rich people around the world. I don't know. There's always more to Sharon, Carter, than what you see going on. So I mean, I think I don't think she would ever go that fully dark, but who knows? We'll let the writers keep surprising us. And how about you guys? Are you watching that?
Not yet.
Yeah, I kind of
though.
figured you guys might not be caught up to that yet.
Not yet. We want to. We're totally in. We actually started doing all of the Marvel movies again because our little guy's big enough that he's starting to get into like all the superheroes. So it's there's quite a few to get through to get to that point. But yeah, so we'll get there.
Cool. I mean, I seriously geeked out on this episode. There were at least two moments that I just like started. My mega fanboy just really lost it. I mean, the one was one that was anticipated that I knew was going to happen at some point because it was in the promotional images. But it was not only Zemo; it was Zemo really being Zemo. Zemo in Civil War. Zemo in Civil War. I mean, is a character called Zemo, but didn't really have all the aspects from the comic of the character. So, I mean, they introduced him as someone who was like a mega spy from Sokovia. And so he had all these spy skills, which enabled him to infiltrate and sorry, spoilers for Civil War, but, who was able to infiltrate and kind of, manipulate the Avengers through the skills that he had there, but that's all that they had, was that he was just a guy named Zemo, from Sokovia who had spy skills. Now, in the third episode of of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he becomes Baron Zemo from the comics. All of a sudden we introduce that, whoa, the guy is mega rich, and he's from a mega rich, like, long family in Europe. Who knew? Because that never got mentioned in Civil War. You'd think at some point someone in the prison would go, this guy's like a really rich guy who's got planes sitting and like a butler, like an Alfred, kind of sitting on a plane, like, at his beck and call at any time. Who knew that? Well, he's been sitting in prison for a couple of years now, and then as soon as he's out, he Falcon and Winter Soldier see all this plane stuff and rich stuff and the whole warehouse full of cars, and he's like, I am a baron. Well, who knew that? And then the entire rest of the episode, other characters are referring to him as Baron Zemo all of a sudden. So, and then of course the big kind of lose it geek moment was when he put on the mask. So if you're a comics fan, from way back like I am, and Captain America characters and that character from the comics, he's Baron Zemo wearing the mask and mega smart and really running the underworld and stuff. And so them making that turn to have him really become the character from the comics was huge. And then the other thing was where they went to find that out, which was Madripoor. As soon as they mentioned Madripoor, I mean, you another one where you turned to me and started laughing, Emily. Just because I got so excited about them introducing Madripoor because of the implications. It's one more step where we keep kind of waiting all these teases that they keep giving us of X-Men, and we know they're coming eventually. They may not be called X-Men because I think Marvel or the Marvel movie people are not enamored with the term X-Men as it being specifically male. So I think they're looking to rebrand that franchise, potentially just as the Mutants. We don't know yet, but that's been the rumor, is that they're looking at what they could call that franchise, what they could call those movies. They don't like the branding of X-Men just because it's so specifically male. And I mean, it was 1963. What was, what was Stan going to do in 1963? He's going to call them the X-Men. But with them looking to do that, we keep seeing these things that look like teases, that WandaVision kept having all these things. It's like, okay, they still haven't said the word mutant, but they established that she had a genetic predisposition to abilities before an Infinity Stone was around. So they're kind of shifting now, from that kind of focus on everything is attached to Infinity Stones, and they're saying like, okay, there were other things, there were magical forces have been there forever, not everything is tied to Infinity Stones. And they're saying now that Wanda is, that she had latent abilities, that only got kind of enhanced by the Infinity Stone. So now we've introduced Madripoor. And so for what comics fans know is Madripoor is this island that, where basically lawlessness reigns. It's essentially run by the villains, that the criminals run Madripoor, and that the character Wolverine lives there for years at a time. It's like, well, over the 100+ years that he's been around, he has spent long periods of time in Madripoor. He is known by a completely different name there. He wears an eye patch, and he is known as Patch. And he's like a known criminal figure in Madripoor. And so it's just that next big real tease. It's like, are we going to get a Wolverine in the MCU, or are we going to get X-Men in the MCU? Emily, any other thoughts left on Falcon and Winter Soldier?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to give you a shot there. Make sure you're still with us. Okay. We're going to move on to Supergirl. Supergirl debuted their new season this week. We talked about it previously that with Superman and Lois having to go on hiatus because of COVID on the set there. So that happens with TV shows right now is if someone is diagnosed with COVID, they have to stop for a couple of weeks. So for pretty much every show, that means that there's longer breaks sometimes in between episodes than what would normally happen in a season. And that's happening now with Superman and Lois. So they had already done several episodes of Supergirl. So they're going ahead and introducing them now to take the place of Superman and Lois for a couple of weeks, and then when they can get back to having episodes of Superman and Lois, that'll come back, and then when they finish off that first season, they'll continue on with Supergirl season 6. And we know in advance that this is the final season of Supergirl. We also know that this episode, just kind of like several of the other shows from the CW, that last year got cut short because of COVID, because of shutting everything down, shutting all the production down. There were several CW DC shows that hadn't finished off their storylines for the season. So where the seasons ended is not where they intended the season ended, is way more of a cliffhanger than they had intended. And so for all of those shows kind of coming back now, their first couple episodes, and for some of them it's one episode, for some of them it's 3 or 4 episodes, are still wrapping up last season's story before they really start this season's story. And this definitely was the case. I mean, that's Supergirl left on a very major cliffhanger with Brainiac about to die. The bad guys kind of looking very triumphant with Lex Luthor really kind of having won. And so now this first episode, had to take us headlong into that storyline and see where we go from there. So, Emily, what did you think about the stuff that actually happened in the show?
This is to me, a major spoiler. I'm worried about what's going to happen to Supergirl, because now that she's in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, that is the cliffhanger.
Exactly are they going to get her back?
Yeah, so they finished off last season's cliffhanger. They basically finished off the storyline and ended that first episode, which would have been the last episode of last season, with a new cliffhanger that would have been the cliffhanger to end the season, which was Supergirl getting trapped in the Phantom Zone. So, the good thing now is instead of having to wait the normal 4 months, we had to wait a year for this episode to wrap up last season. But now instead of having to wait 3 to 4 months to continue that storyline cliffhanger, we get it next week. So good part, bad part.
And I sort of liked last season's cliffhanger better than this season's cliffhanger. I think we were better off with that cliffhanger instead of such a big cliffhanger as this one.
But you still like the show. You still are into all the characters. You're still kind of on the edge of your seat and wanting to see what happens. How do you feel about it ending this season? How do you feel about it ending this season with it being the last season?
I feel that it's ending, but I feel excited that we're going to get it makes more room for new stuff, because it looks like that's sort of what they did with Arrow. They moved that out of the way and took the place of that with that woman, I think. And space for the new show, Superman and Lois. And I think they're getting rid of Supergirl because it's sort of hard to have 2 different super family shows on at the same time.
And they have such different tones. I mean, they're very different feeling shows.
I also wanted to say that the new poster for this season, I love it. Can you please put it back on?
Okay,
in
hold
case
on.
people don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That.
Yes, you got very excited by the image for some reason.
That's very cool.
Okay, nice. Okay, let's since we're actually running down on time here because we've had such a great conversation with more people involved, we're gonna jump down to our last review. I don't know if you guys are watching this. We've been watching the new Mighty Ducks show. We actually, when it first appeared a couple months ago on Disney Plus, we watched the first Mighty Ducks movie from 30 years ago. We started the second one. We haven't gotten through it. We definitely haven't gotten through all three. So we've watched the first original Mighty Ducks. We've watched a little bit of the second one, but we've been watching the new show. It's now this week was its second episode, and we've been enjoying it quite a bit. With the return, of the main character on there, but with a whole new group of kids and a new mom as kind of the lead character. Emily, what do you like about it?
I like that it's still about kids and their journey through hockey, but it takes place like now, where they have pretty much all the same aspects we're having now. There's one big aspect they don't have, and that would make it way harder. They don't have COVID.
Oh, gotcha. You're saying the fact that in the storyline, because some shows have been acknowledging COVID and this show is not. So you're saying like if they had to acknowledge COVID, the show wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I don't think you're allowed to really play hockey. Well, it's just hard to play hockey during COVID right now because you have to wear masks under your helmets, and I think you absolutely have to wear gloves when handling the equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, with COVID, I mean, it's definitely harder. Sorry.
And I think they have to sanitize everything after too. I also wanted to say, my dad couldn't find a picture of all the characters there with the logo, so we actually put it on the picture, and I noticed that it looks like she's holding it. So we moved it a little bit so it looks like she's holding it.
Yes, we made our own images for that. Yes, but I like it. I mean, it preserves the main element of Mighty Ducks, which is the underdog. I mean, that's what Mighty Ducks has always been about. That and so the idea in there is that the original Mighty Ducks, that franchise of kids sports teams within the reality of the show, have now become the top dogs. They're now like 10 years in a row the winners of the championship, and so they're no longer the underdogs. So they're now shutting out kids who don't fit that mold, who aren't like the perfect champions, and who have the hovering parents who make sure that they have like $1,000 trainers, making sure that they're perfect on the ice and stuff like that. And so that it's a mom who kind of now her kid had been on that team and now is being cut because he's no longer considered at the top capability, and they're telling him that well, at this age, if you're not at the top, then we don't need you on this team anymore. And so she decides to start her own team of kids who have not been allowed to join those teams, of basically how the original Mighty Ducks started. I mean, that's the original Mighty Ducks were the misfit kids, were the kids who didn't have a place, who needed the team to give them a place to come together. So they really have it is a true reboot. It's kind of weird because it's a rare one where it's not a reboot, it's a continuation, because they've still got the main character coming back. Emilio Estevez is still playing his original character and he's back, but it's a reboot in the sense that they're really going back to the original story, and it's now a new group of misfit kids who have to learn how to come together as a team and have hockey and team sports really kind of give them a place to be and a new family. So we've been enjoying it. I don't know if you guys have watched.
We haven't had a chance to watch it. Yeah, I love Lauren Graham. Like, she's just a delight. And I'm wondering if they're going to have like Kenan Thompson and those guys that were on it originally as kids come back. I just think that would be really fun.
Yeah, the original Ducks are going to make an appearance, I believe.
Like little cameos and stuff.
I think that would be one episode where they all come back. So
that's awesome.
Yep. And actually, where Lauren Graham just came from, which was Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, was a show that Emily and I watch avidly as fans of musicals, and she left that show, and now she's on this show.
Yes. And I keep fingers crossed that eventually she'll go back to Parenthood, because there's still mutterings that they're gonna bring him back, and I'm like, but we'll see.
Well, thank you for you guys joining us for this, and this was our third episode. We did our first with guests and kind of expanding, and we really enjoyed it, and we look forward to continuing to do this. Emily, what would you like the audience to do?
Subscribe and leave a like, please.
Cool, and we'll see you all next week. Yes, we'll see you all next week. Thank you. This was Family Fan Talk for this week.